Hi, I'm Emily Jackson, professionally known as EmmoLei Sankofa. I am O-Phi-O XIV. I studied music recording technology while at Hampton, and I'm from Atlanta, Georgia. And I'm currently a composer, a film and TV composer. And yeah, here we are. So Lizzo's Watch Out for the Big Girls just came out, and I composed music for that series. It's an 8-episode series that is on Amazon Prime Video. I also did AMC and Shudder's Horror Noir, which is a 6-story anthology film, and they also premiered it on live TV on AMC this February during Black History Month. That was dope. And I'm working on a bunch of films. Like I'm working on like two or three feature films right now. 2 are documentaries. One is a narrative. Actually, 4. There's another narrative. I'm working on so much stuff, but I have another series coming out on Stars. I worked on season 3 of Step Up High Water with Stephanie Economou. So Stephanie and I co-composed the music for that entire series. So that'll be coming out later this year on Stars. And all of the other projects I'm working on, will unravel over time throughout the rest of this year. And I know you mentioned Sundance earlier, so Composer Fellow 2021. And we got to study under a lot of great mentors, Catherine Bostic, Blake Neely, who else? Laura Cartman. I mean, it was insane. That was an amazing opportunity. And then this year at the festival, Sundance did a virtual manifestation of the festival. So I had music on the spaceship. I composed music for the Sundance spaceship that they had, that they pretty much did the festival virtually on. So yeah, pretty loaded right now. Right after Hampton, I went to the Savannah College of Art and Design, which is called SCAD, just the abbreviated version. And I went there immediately to do my master's in sound design. And that's where I kind of got immersed in the film and TV environment, not only on the visual side, but on the sound and music side. And from there, I immediately went to Los Angeles to pursue a career. After graduating from SCAD, I went straight to Los Angeles, maybe like 5 months after. And just started out there, right away. And the journey in LA was interesting because you're finished with school, you're eager to get started, and it's like that's not exactly what happened. So it took a minute for me to get where I'm at now. And a lot of people come to me and ask, because to be honest, it was like a slow burn because I was actively doing things that led up to all of these moments that seem like really explosive at this point. Because even I don't know that many people know this, but my senior year at Hampton, I opted out of a lot of the senior activities to spend my money, the money that my mom had pretty much given me to participate in a lot of the senior stuff that last week. I went and bought my CDs for my first album release. I went and bought 100 of those and I spent my money on that instead. And so it was kind of like a series of just decisions that I made. And even just people kind of pouring into me in ways that I don't really think they understood that kind of led me on this path. And like I said, even I think my junior year, Dr. Tomasetti, who used to be over the music recording program at Hampton, told me that my music was cinematic and that I should essentially investigate, the film scoring lane. And even he told me about Casey Willis, who I think she was either going to SCAD at the time or was already there. But he was telling me about Casey at SCAD and kind of introduced SCAD to me as well. And it was kind of comforting to know that someone that, had been in the band and also had graduated from the program was also there. So it was okay, I might go see what this is about. And really from there was just kind of pew. And when I got to Los Angeles, I was just very excited and eager and green. And it actually took me a while to just work up to this point because Los Angeles is not like a space that you could just like come in and permeate. You really have to, and I know Issa Rae said this a lot, but you kind of have to build the community and come up with a lot of the people that are kind of actively working next to you. Because my approach when I first got there was like, hey, let me apply at these studios and, let me visit and work under, a composer, find somebody to work up under, but it just didn't work like that. So I kind of had to pivot and choose a different strategy to kind of build my career from where I was when I got there. And a lot of my friends from SCAD that I was in the grad program with, we all kind of went out to Los Angeles at the same time. So we really stuck together. And when somebody was working on a film, we brought everybody in so that everybody was kind of actively building their skill set in their particular lane. And once maybe, let's say, like somebody got on a big show and they had the power, or even just like, the opportunity to bring on and crew up, they would bring all of us in and try to fit everybody in so that we could actively be growing and scaling together. And that's really kind of how things work. In addition to like me reaching out to, there was another turning point, 2017, I reached out to Michael Abels, who scored Get Out, Us. He's done, actually Get Out was like his break as a film composer, because prior to that he was a teacher and he was basically composing like concert works, and Jordan Peele actually found him on YouTube, which is another story. But when I saw Get Out, I looked him up and I met with him because at the time he was still very low-key. No one really knew him yet. And I met with him to kind of get advice on how to properly break into the industry. And just with him, with that being his first big film, like what was his process and how he navigated that opportunity, even down to like asking him questions about his agent and things like that. And from there, he kind of brought me into a group that he called, that's still called this to this day, the Composers Diversity Collective. And there I was able to meet more composers of color that were at different stages of their careers, and we all kind of stuck together on that side of things because most people don't realize that a lot of the really big films are still largely done and composed by white men. There are some women in the mix, some Black people in the mix, but not many. And so that organization was founded by him to kind of change that. And so from there, just being in the mix and being able to be introduced to people at networks and just people across the industry, kind of like it was like a trickle effect. And I started meeting a lot of people and networking, in addition to also being a part of the Recording Academy. I was in Grammy U. Literally, I was doing everything. I was leveraging every organization that I was a part of to network, to meet people, in addition to the community that I had built, to kind of like bring all of those things together to create opportunities for myself. And that is like a big thing in the art world, where it's like you can't really wait. You have to find ways to create opportunities for yourself and leverage the resources that you have right now. Because depending on where you come from, you may not have the money, or you may not have the nepotism to rely on and all of those things. So you just have to use what you have right now in the moment and figure out how to make it work. And, if you have to pivot, you have to pivot. Because a lot of my peers that were screenwriters, directors, and like when we were in LA, somebody wrote a script. They said, yo, let's shoot it. If it's a 4-page script, that's like a 4-minute film. All hands on deck. I did sound a lot of times. I did music a lot of times. Some of my peers would do sound design in the mix. There were people, Damo, who's like killing it in the DP, like in the DP world. Oh my God. Damo would be on camera. My friend Adri sometimes would direct. Rashonda wrote. She's like an executive, a TV exec now. Like everybody is literally at the top of their game right now. And we just started with just shooting everybody's content. So it's just like, or their work. So if you have a script, no matter how big or how small it is, like crew up with people next to you. Or The other secret is fellowships, right? Grants, fellowships, but mainly fellowships. Residency too, fellowships, residencies. So those are like the two hacks where a lot of times you could get funding and you could visit cool places and get inspiration. Like I went to South Africa for a residency. It was the Baldwin residency in Johannesburg, and I spent a week there just exploring the culture. And music didn't come out of that residency, but I learned a lot about who I am. I got to explore other cultures, and I soaked up a lot of that stuff that found its way into my work later. And sometimes you just need the space and the clarity to like art. My mother would play violin, and my father was a musician too. Like he went to FAMU, played tuba. He also played bass guitar in a lot of bands. And he was a DJ. But my mom, we spent a lot of time like going to the symphony, the Atlanta Symphony Orchestra. We saw them almost like maybe twice a year. And also growing up, I played in the symphonic band. I was in concert band. You know, I was immersed in that environment where I was hearing that kind of music. I was playing that kind of music. And I didn't immediately understand how my upbringing and my musical upbringing kind of found its way into my music. Because when I went to Hampton, I actually went to Hampton with the idea of becoming a producer. And I quickly learned that like, you can't apply for that job. It's kind of the same way things work as a composer. My journey as a composer was a little bit easier for me in terms of just kind of breaking into this space more than I think being a producer or like breaking in as a producer would be. But I started making music like as a producer in high school. And so you just like, sometimes you just don't consciously understand how that stuff, the things that you've digested and been exposed to just finds its way in your work naturally because you've been listening to it, you're drawn to it. And I had a lot of other influences too. Like I played, my first job was a drummer at church in high school. And I actually was also an engineer at the chapel at Hampton. So I don't know. It's just a lot of different, like gospel, R&B. I love jazz. Like there's just a lot of different influences. And my mom played a lot of classical music for us in the car on the way to school growing up. Like just along the journey, I started realizing like, man, it's just crazy how the things that you're exposed to as a kid kind of like infiltrate your creative expression. You know what I'm saying? So I think that's really like how that type of, that sound or even just how that even bled into my awareness outside of Dr. Tomasetti kind of saying, hey, you should investigate this. All right, so EmmoLei, actually, I'll start with Sankofa, right? So Sankofa is a Ghanaian name. It's from the Akan tribe. And it means go back and get it. That's like the actual meaning of Sankofa. But what does go back and get it mean, right? So it essentially means you have to understand your past or essentially not forget your past in order to move through the present and the future. So it's almost like honoring the past, learning from the past, leveraging the past and leveraging things from the past that work and that help you in your present and in your future. And in terms of my work, I don't know if many people notice this or know this, but I started, even just like when I started making music, a lot of times I based my albums around people that I found from the past that I felt people forgot or didn't pay attention to. And I would obsessively like go through their work and learn their work. And I was inspired by it so much so that I would birth these new creations that, you know, you may not immediately see how they're connected to the work, but after digging around, you probably will be like, oh snap, like this is very this was definitely inspired by John Cage or by Screaming Jay Hawkins or, you know, Missy or whatever the case may be. And so that's kind of like the whole reason why I chose Sankofa for the end of my name. Now, EmmoLei, my government name is EmmoLei. It's spelled the regular way, but EmmoLei, the spelling that I have now for my artistic or for my artist name is one that I chose because it kind of ties into Sankofa where, you know, my name means industrious. My name has a meaning that manifests itself into who I am, how I move, and just how I do things in general. So it was a chosen spelling that I created for myself, but it still allowed me to latch on to who I came in this world as, who my mother named me as. So it's still like I'm choosing something from my past that is meaningful, and I'm sticking with that because that's what has carried me up until this point. But it's also a new essence. It's something that I've chosen that I'm walking into. Like it's the EmmoLei that I am choosing to be. It's almost like in terms of EmmoLei, like the first part of my name, it's not necessarily. It's like shedding the pieces of me that really it's just coming into who I am, like who I've always been. But you know, when you grow up, people are kind of molding you based on what they know and understand, and that carries you a little bit until you make decisions about who you want to be or who you know you are based on like what you've experienced in the world. You know what I'm saying? Because there was like, once I left home, you know, I definitely took the things that my parents instilled in me and taught me and used them. But there were also things that I learned about life that shaped me because they were my experiences. So it's not even about like becoming a character. It's about becoming more of who I've always been. But it's been a journey to get to that point. So it's like now I am in control of my destiny by giving myself the name, because names are codes. Names have meaning, which is why you have to be very careful what you name things and what you even name your children, because the meaning that's attached to it is the manifestation of essentially who they may become. So you have to be careful, you know. It's been pretty positive. I think so. Like when I went to Hampton, because like my entire life, I was involved in everything. Like I literally was in camps. I was like in every club. I was in everything. So when I got to Hampton, I was a little exhausted, and I was like, man, I'm about to just do marching band. I'm about to immerse myself into this music. And I did a few other things, and I was like, I'm gonna just keep it cute. So while I was at Hampton, I feel like I didn't leverage a lot of the other clubs and stuff that I could have done. I didn't leverage that stuff as much as I could have when I was there. So I did a lot of connecting, like outside of band and stuff like that. I did a lot of connecting with people kind of after I graduated, which was like really ironic because we were just all there. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, and that's one of the things that I would tell like college students now is like the people that you're in school with now are the people that are like the next whatever in their field. And so a lot of times, even when it comes to like, you know, doing business or getting things done, no matter what industry you're in, a lot of your peers are going to be the executives and the decision makers and the people that you can call upon to say, hey, I'm coming here, or I need this business deal done, or I'm trying to get in here. Like these are the people that you can call upon for opportunities that are seemingly not open to you through the front door, if that makes sense. So I feel like that's one of the biggest things outside of just, you know, maintaining your academics and making sure you're strong in whatever field you're pursuing, leveraging and managing and creating a network of people that you can grow with once you leave is like one of the most important things that you can ever do. And by the time I got to SCAD, like I was better at that, and I was kind of recharged because SCAD was a really nurturing space creatively for me. I won't say that Hampton wasn't. It's just that we just had different tools and things that we had access to that created an environment for me to feel things out and learn and figure out what I truly wanted to do. So I think that by the time I got to SCAD, I was like, my brain was just like, because we had everything there. Like there was nothing that we didn't have. And so for me too, that even made me realize that like at some point I want to come back to Hampton and pour into the music department and even kind of, because I know Hampton has like a film festival now, but I really think that there should be a film music program or a program that prioritizes film, sound, and music, because there are so many careers and opportunities for Black students in this space. And it's like we're not present yet because a lot of people just don't know the careers like music editing and music supervision and orchestrating and like sound design, Foley artists, like ADR mixers. Like there's so many different careers in this space that like it doesn't make sense not to expose people to this. So that's one of my biggest goals, is to be able to come back and help set up the infrastructure for a program that cultivates creatives in this space, because a lot of students are curious about this. And even some of the talks that I've come back to do at Hampton, I've been able to kind of shed light and share those things with students, and immediately I'm getting questions and, just things about how they can figure out how to get into the space. And so I just want to facilitate and make things a bit easier than they were for me, because I know like there's room for us here, but it starts with the exposure, the awareness, and from there, the opportunities you create for yourself and the opportunities that you can create for your peers. It's just that cycle. It's that cycle that keeps things going and keeps things growing and scaling. So e-sankofa.com. That's literally where everything is housed. But if social media is where you spend a lot of your time, following artists and things, you can always find me at EmmoLei, and that's EmmoLei. That's pretty much all of my social media. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, yeah, maybe. But I'm pretty active on Instagram and Twitter. And like I said, my website, if you would like to have direct news and updates from me, you can always subscribe to my newsletter, which you can do through my website as well. I'm pretty active with sending out newsletters as well, just to keep people in the know and to offer opportunities for people to see my work before everyone else, or just to get first dibs on when things are coming out. So yeah.